On this episode of Travels with Bill, we're at the Swan Valley Historical Museum to explore Harvest Festival 2021. We'll take a peek at the Sawmill and see it in operation, plus we'll look at the all-time favorite. You bet, it's the Threshing Machine. And then we'll find out if this guy ever manages to lift that bottle. That's all ahead on this episode of Travels with Bill. The museum grounds feature numerous buildings that are always impressive to see, but it's at the annual Harvest Festival that everything comes alive. With a break in COVID, the museum was able to pack the grounds and let locals enjoy a well-deserved break. The 2021 edition of the Harvest Festival even had two trains. The Lion's Barrel train and the museum's own mini railway was in operation. It was a couple years ago that Harvest Festival saw some major upgrades. It's always had some equipment demos, but the event has expanded significantly and now includes a vendor area where you can find anything from vegetables to artwork and everything in between. Many years, the festival also includes fresh cooked corn on the cob, and of course there's always plenty of food to enjoy. One of the big things that was added to the festival was the old-time children's carnival. It gives a look back at the way things used to be, with games from yesteryear that, as kids find out, are even more fun than playing on their computer or phone. Most of what you see at the festival is run by volunteers, and thankfully the museum is having lots of luck finding people who want to help out and make events work perfectly. We'll take a minute and explore the carnival before we get to the equipment demonstrations. One of the games is the beanbag ladder toss. Here, contestants toss 3 beanbags to score points. But it's not as simple as you think. The bag has to land and stay on one of the steps of the ladder. If it falls off, no points for you. Maybe you'd rather try your luck at the sucker pull. Here you pull a random sucker, and if the bottom of the stick is colored, you win a prize ticket. Either way, you get to keep the sucker as a reward for playing. That's Candace. She's one of the volunteers at the museum, and she's trying her best to give this little guy a prize, even adjusting the rules a bit to give him another chance. But unfortunately, no luck today.
This kid can't win. That's not right, is it? Kids gotta win.
The most popular game this year was, of course, the duck pond. Winning here was pretty easy, and the lineup at the pond lasted the entire Harvest Festival. And then some. It was the last game with participants, even as the festival closed.
Can you get 3 in a row? I think so. Go. Oh, but so close.
The hardest game at the carnival sounds so simple. All you have to do is set the bottle up using the ring on a string. The bottle can't fall off the platform, and you only get a couple minutes to try. Turns out only a couple people win this game every year. We're watching the deputy mayor of Swan River try his luck. Little spoiler though, Johnny Wintoniw wasn't able to set the bottle up either.
I tried.
Some of the most popular parts of the Harvest Festival are the equipment demos. You can always find a crowd gathered to see what's going on, and we're going to get up close where you can't always go, so you get the best view in the house. The Sawmill, like much of this equipment, is run by a belt from a flywheel of a tractor. So not only do you get to see the mill, you also get to hear that telltale sound of a John Deere in action. We're watching Neil Brown making some rough boards. It takes 4 men to operate the mill. 1 is on the tractor to start and stop the mill in case something goes wrong. 2 are on the front end, getting the logs in position and running the carriage back and forth. And 1 is at the rear, catching the boards as they come off. This mill is always available for viewing, but it generally only operates 1 time a year. Everything here is as it was when the mill was used commercially. It's well worth visiting to see how all the machinery works. You won't find a single computer or microchip. Everything is 100% mechanical with no hydraulics or anything else. Just cables, gears, and really smart people to make it all work. While it wasn't operating in 2021, the museum also has a functional planer. They can take the wood from this mill and demonstrate the full process from rough sawing to smooth finished lumber. Today is just the right temperature. There's barely any bugs and things are good. But imagine for a moment just how much more work this would be when the conditions weren't so good. We'll take a peek from the back as well so you can see how this works from behind. We're hoping to post a whole video just about the sawmill in the future so you can learn exactly how it operates. In the foreground you can see the main drive belt that's coming from the tractor. Then under the cover you can see some of the belts driving the blade and a bit of the mechanism that allows the carriage to be moved forward and back. The way the mill works seems so simple, until you consider all the parts needed to make that simple back and forth movement work when the tractor's only spinning in one direction. And just as simple as that, another board is made and ready for the pile, and the sawmill goes back to work again. There's no doubt that the demonstration everyone comes to see is the threshing machine. Nothing captivates like this old-fashioned machine that revolutionized the way prairie farmers harvest their grain. Sure, over the years we ended up with small and now large combines, but threshing machines like this were the first time the concept of big-time mechanization made bigger and bigger fields and farms possible. It too is belt-driven. Before the concept of a power takeoff and drive shaft, belts were commonplace. They let the tractor be a fair distance away, so it didn't get as dusty, while still providing the motive force for the entire machine. Speaking of belts, see that one coming loose on the side of the machine? And there it goes, off again. That's one of the troubles with a machine full of belts. Now it's time to stop and do a little fixing so you can get going again. Now on this particular day, the belt that's giving the most trouble, at least for now, is the one that runs the blower. That takes the straw out of the threshing machine and gets it over into the big pile. Without it running, of course, the machine would completely plug up. It wouldn't be long until something else got wrecked. Putting that belt back on is important, but remember it was off for a bit while things were going through the machine. That means you need to get the machine cleaned out enough now that it's working properly again. If you look at what they're doing, they're adjusting the tensioning on that belt. That's going to make sure that it's a little bit tighter and hopefully doesn't come off. Imagine this though, there's no edges on those pulleys. Those belts stay on simply by being tight and being in a perfect line. If they're not in a perfect line, of course, they'll work their way off once again. In a moment, you're going to see Neil give a hand sign here to start the machine up. That lets the tractor operator know to start spinning that wheel again. If you didn't have someone on the tractor, you'd have to run over there and shut it off, then run back when you wanted to get it going. Quick check of the other side, and here it comes. Time to spin. Let's see if the straw's plugged up or if it comes out of the machine as everything starts to turn. Well, it's looking good so far. And out comes the extra straw that was left, and everything seems to still be working. No sooner than you get started, more belt trouble. This time it's a different one. An elevator lifts the grain up so that it can come out of the machine, but the belt has come off for the elevator drive shaft. That means as the machine starts to turn, the elevator stops moving. Well, this too would plug up the machine. If the grain has no place to go, it's just a matter of time until everything grinds to a halt. This time around, it's tensioning at the top of the machine, so we'll get someone climbed up there to do a little bit more adjusting. Now, the spray can is belt dressing. That makes the belts work a little bit better and keeps them going like they should. A few more adjustments and we'll be ready to try again. Now notice the sign there for Harvesting Hope. Back in 2016, this McCormick Deering machine was actually in Austin for that attempt at the world record for the largest number of threshing machines operating in one place. Well, it made the trip down from Swan River along with a 1941 Oliver 80 tractor and was part of the record attempt. So let's finish the fix and we'll give this a try again. Get the machine running, the belt's looking good this time, everything starts going. Check out how many belts there are there to keep going. And yep, everything's fine. Check out the back and the straw is coming out. See the young farmer there learning how it used to be done a long time ago? I mean, bet his dad didn't run one of these machines, but his great-grandpa probably did. Well, looks like a lot of dust, but oh, no, there it is again. See, the belt is off. Sometimes you just have a bad day when you're trying to run a threshing machine. We're going to jump ahead to the point that second belt is also fixed so you can see some more of how the machine works. It's both complicated and straightforward. Without any wires or switches, you can simply follow each belt and chain to see what it does. From the front, the wheat goes in, and by the time it comes out the back, all we really have left is some straw, and then of course the grain comes out into our box. As I mentioned earlier, everyone you're watching operate this machine is a volunteer. They learn how the machines work, how to fix them, and how to preserve them. It's a labor of love. If you're in the local area and wanting to be part of the museum, they're always looking for more volunteers, and once a year you can be part of running the threshing machine. All the gears and the belts. It's amazing how this thing works, but it was all figured out and it works very, very well. You've seen how the trouble can happen too with the belts. That would happen in the field just as well. If you took the machine out and were doing this, you could have trouble. Speaking of trouble, see that one? It's coming off again. Well, it's not long until somebody notices it and sends a signal to slow the machine down, let's stop and fix it. But just when you think it's about to fall off, it's going to go right back onto the pulley, and the machine's fine. We can keep on going. This particular threshing machine is set up with a system so it actually measures the amount of grain coming out. The machine's always making it, but up at the top there it measures out a particular amount so that you could fill bushel bags with it. Now we're just putting it in the back of a pickup truck here, but you'll see when it finally does get full, out comes the grain. It's actually pretty clean, isn't it? Whole lot easier than doing it by hand too. We'll take a peek at the back of the machine, a few belts here as well. See how all the pulleys are turning at a different speed? Well, the size of the pulley, of course, determines that. So you have some parts of the machine going very quickly, some parts going very slowly, but together it all works out and makes it work. The straw pile is one of the favorites of kids. See how it all flows out there? Being in it when it comes out isn't any fun, but afterwards you can play in that straw and have a whole heap of fun. Harvest Festival at the Swan Valley Historical Museum happens in late August every year. For best results, check with the museum to find out the exact date. They know all summer long, so if you give them a call or check their Facebook page, they'll make sure you're here on the right date to see those demonstrations in person. We'll take one more peek at the back of the machine here a little closer up so you can see how all those belts work. See that belt that has the twist in it? That's how you change direction in a machine like this. Because of how the camera works, you can't necessarily see how all those spokes are going around. In fact, the one of them looks like it's turning so slow when it's actually going faster than some of the other ones. But in any case, it's cool to see, and you can always see this machine on display as well. Follow those belts yourself to see what feeds the next. Now, in case you're wondering, the wheat is grown here at the museum, but not every year, which means the wheat supply has to last 2 years at a time. And that means it's time to stop putting wheat in the machine, so there's some left for next year. Well, that does it for our brief look at Harvest Festival 2021 at the Swan Valley Historical Museum. Hopefully you've enjoyed a look around and some demonstrations. We'll be doing a bunch more videos in the future about the museum. Speaking of future, why not make sure you subscribe to Travels with Bill? Then when we release those new videos about the museum and so many more interesting places, you'll be one of the very first to know. We'll watch as the machine comes to a stop and take one more look at your favorite threshing machine. For now, though, we will say farewell from the Swan Valley Historical Museum in Swan River, Manitoba. We'll see you again on the next episode of Travels with Bill.